3, and we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to another edition of the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. My name is Jay Angel. I'm going to be your host for this evening. With me tonight, the Let's Talk Fishing podcast, brought to you by Crusher Lures, Grant Rods, and the American Bass Club. With me tonight, I have Sherry Jacks. She's a lady bass angler, and she fishes the Lady Bass Anglers Association. I just had a couple ladies from the Lady Bass Anglers Association. Great place, great bunch of ladies, and there really are some sticks in there too. So how are you doing tonight, Sherry?
I'm great. It's nice to be on. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on. It's a pleasure to have you. So, Sherry, you were just up at Bulls Shoals Lake. Bulls Shoals.
That's correct.
Northern Arkansas, right up there on the Missouri border. Beautiful area. I fished that. My mom lives about 60 miles east of there, in kind of in the mountains, kind of. But
it is. It was a beautiful lake, but the heat while we were there, it was just torrential. It was awful. It was like 111-degree heat index. It was hell on the ladies. There's some tough birds that have to stay out there in 111 degrees, but we did it, and we had a great time.
Well, they have people like you, people from Alabama. They have people from Texas, which also has oppressive heat. But also,
right.
The dang lake was 30 feet high, wasn't it?
It was. We actually have some videos on our phone to where you could actually pull up and step out on people's roofs. I think it was like a ballpark area near the dam. I was with Nikki Jo Hatton, and we were in the boat just riding around, looking at stuff during practice. And there were power poles that we could probably troll up and change out the bulbs. That's how high this lake was. I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we talked about, is catching fish in a lake that's changing every single day. Because as lake goes up and down, the fish move up and down with the water.
We were catching fish out of these jungle gyms that were at this. It looked to be like maybe it was a ballpark, a city park, a play area, but you could catch fish out of the jungle gyms. Everything was underwater. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that.
So these ladies were talking, Secret York and Cheryl Bowden were talking about catching fish in buckbrush. Is that what you were talking about?
No. We were actually pitching up on the bluff walls. The second day of the tournament, I did catch a little bit out of the buckbrush, but the fish that I caught all during practice were on these bluff walls. They kind of staircase down, and if you would we used the crusher jigs. If you throw your jig up there and just walk it down, and at the bottom is when you feel it. And I had never caught a smallmouth until I fished this tournament, and I caught my first smallmouth with Secret York, actually. And when I flipped it over in the boat, and she said, "That's the spot." I said, "It is not." She saw how excited I got. But yeah, the majority of the fish I caught was actually on the bluff walls. We caught some on top water early that morning, all during practice, but the last day of the tournament, they did not want that top water bait. Not the one that I was throwing that I had caught them on. I caught them on a big spook.
Sure.
All week long, caught them on a spook, throwing it up in that brush, just walking it, and they were hammering it. And we're talking decent fish, 2.5 to 3.5 pounds, good solid keepers. But most of the fish that we caught were on those bluff rock walls.
So when you're talking about a crusher jig, were you using their heavy finesse jigs, or?
The heavy finesse jig and the 1/2 ounce. The one we were actually using was the pond scum. I brought some on the show. It was pond scum. It's a different color, looks really natural. It's got a brown, black, like a bluish, kind of like a shad blue color in it. It's really, really nice. And then I use it with a pocket crawl trailer on it, and that's what they were biting.
What kind of a trailer?
I could get a pocket crawl, a little crawfish.
Okay, pocket crawl. That's Who makes the pocket crawls?
I'm not sure who makes the pocket crawls. Is it net bait?
It's a net bait. You are exactly right. I like the pocket crawls because they're round. You know, they're
That's
not
right.
they're like it's a hollow body lure, guys. And you stick the jig in there, it goes in real nice. And even though it's round and it's hollow body, it's still tough.
That's right, and it has the little two tentacles on the side to where it doesn't in any way stop your hook or put anything in front of it to where you can't get to it. Just easy. It pairs up nicely with that, gives it a more realistic look.
Boy, I'm
So
looking
that's
at
what
the
we were.
ponds. I'm looking at that color pond scum. That's going to go well with some of the colors of the pocket craw.
Yeah, it's natural, and I liked it because it had that red in it, that orange-looking color. I don't know if you can see it in my camera, but it's got like a brown and an orange. So we were walking it down these red clay bluff walls, and it made it look a little more natural. It's not nothing that was too bulky and stand out. It's not like throwing something chartreuse up there. It kind of blended in, looked a little more natural. So they were hammering it. So we had a really good time practicing on those. That's my
So,
favorite go-to color. Especially here on the Alabama River, that is a go-to on the Alabama River.
so, so were you catching smallmouth bass on that?
I was not catching smallmouth bass on that. I was catching largemouth bass in the middle of smallmouth bass.
Wow.
I had never caught a smallmouth until I went to Bulls Shoals, and then I was fishing with Nikki Joe, and we got on this big school, and she was on active target. She said, "Come up here. I want you to catch a smallmouth." So I was casting in the middle of this huge school. We're looking at 3 and 4 pounders, just a massive school. And in the middle of that, when I felt it hit, I reeled down, I set my hook, and I pulled it up, and it was a 4-pound largemouth, and all the smallmouth come swimming up with it. That's my luck.
Smallmouth.
If there's a different breed within 100 yards of our boat, that's what I'm catching.
But smallmouth love to do that. I couldn't believe the first time I saw that happen. I was in the Air Force and I was fishing on Lake St. Clair because I was stationed right on the shores of Lake St. Clair at an Air Guard base. And I just could not believe it. I could not believe it.
Yes, my husband was like, "How did you know that 3 or 4 smallmouth chased it up?" And I said, "The water's so clear, you can see them. I mean, they just come up to the boat like, 'Earl, where are you going?' And took off." It was hilarious just to watch that. I was sick though that I didn't get one of those smallmouth. So,
Well, if you can fill up your if you can fill up your 5 with largemouth, you're still doing better than most.
no, that's correct. That's correct. So I was struggling day 2 at Bull Shoals, and Secret, the thing, I paired up with her day 2, and her plan, what she had planned out for that day 1, where she had caught them all during practice, didn't pan out. So she said, "So we're doing something totally different day 2," and that's when we started fishing the little buck brush, and we was catching them day 2 on a shaker head, a crusher shaker head. Have you had the opportunity to fish with those yet?
I have not,
No, they're
but I'm going to
great.
be getting some.
These have a little inset hook to where it doesn't catch on everything, and it has the guard to where your worm sets on it, so everything looks more, it's straight, it's realistic, it's not coming through all bulky and crazy. Well, I've dropped it, of course, but it's really nice. It has that inset eye on it. It doesn't catch on everything. It's inset. It's really, really neat. That's my favorite one. If I don't have those, I just feel like I can't fish. That's what I'm calling Roger. Like, oh, I need hooks. I'm going somewhere. I've lost everything I have. So I really like those. Maybe you'll get a chance to fish with some of those soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. So, what did you end up? What did you end up with weight wise at that tournament?
At Bull Shoals, I didn't have but 2 fish day 2. I don't even remember what my weight was, but I finished 4th in that tournament, and it ended up, it locked me in for co-AOY for the 2022 season. So I won co of the year for the Lady Bass Anglers this year. I did. I missed it by 1 spot last year. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you won Angler of the Year this year.
I won co-Angler of the Year. Lisa Johnson from Century, Alabama won Angler of the Year, and I won co-Angler of the Year. I did. It's my first time ever winning it. I've been after it now for 4 seasons. I set some goals for myself this year, and one was I wanted to win AOI, which I did. I wanted to win a tournament, and I wanted to beat my personal best, which I set my goals this year, and I exceeded every goal I set for myself.
AOY. Wow. I don't care if you're angler or co-angler. In a lot of ways, getting AOI as a co-angler is even, in a lot of ways, it's even more difficult because you don't have control of the boat. There are people out there who will front seat you. There are people who won't as well. There's some pros are wonderful. You know, I fished co-angler for a couple years, and it was difficult. I did not like that as a guy who had had my own boat since I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was always in control. Even as a guide, I was in control. And all of a sudden I'm back here and, you know, what do I do? The dude's fishing, you know, docks. And the docks on the Mississippi River are, you know, narrow and 20 feet long. Not Texas docks that are, you know, 60 feet wide and 100 feet long. You know, you can skip. No, man, if you skip 3 times, you're all the way on the other side of the dock, you know.
Right. Well, with the ladies, they're pretty nice for the most part. Well, the ones that I have fished with, they'll be like halfway through the tournament. They're saying, if you see something you want to fish, you know, just tell me. Or do you have any ideas of what you might want to do? And you know, they're just like that. Most of them, you don't get front ended by them. They're really nice. Like Pam Martin Wells, she's the best of the best when it comes to lady anglers. In my opinion, she is. But I fished with her on Cane River in Louisiana, and I caught 9 pounds behind Pam Martin Wells. I told my husband, I said, I don't care how I did in this tournament. I caught 9 pounds behind her. Better than so deep. You know, so excited.
Sorry.
Sounds like
she just realized my stepdaughter's home. Oh, good Lord, you're done. Okay. Aside from the dog, you also had big fish of a tournament, didn't you?
I did. I fished. Let me see. Back in May, we fished Caddo Lake in Oil City, Louisiana. If anybody's ever been out there, it's a different way. It's just different. The boat lanes, I've never seen anything like it. And it's Lake Picatree, as we ladies call it, because it's nothing but cypress. Lake Picatree. Every tree looks the same. Every tree looks the same.
Every tree looks the same. The thing is,
every
they're not.
tree looks. No, they're not. So I was paired up with Ann Carey.
Find a group of trees with hundreds of knees.
And that's correct. Well, I paired with Ann Carroll, and she was kind of fishing in between a lane of trees. So you had a row of tree on the right side of the boat that was in 3 foot of water, and you had a row of trees on the left side of the boat that was in 18 inches of water. That way we could kind of fan cast it, whatever we wanted. On a wacky, and I pitched it over beside a tree, and I knew I was in 3 foot of water. Always looking to see. Are you good?
Oh, good Lord. I really want to hear this.
It's okay.
Go. Please get her.
Excited.
Please get her and take her into your room. Thank you.
Anyway, I pitched over beside a tree, and it only fell probably 8-10 inches. And I was like, well, it had a little bit of tension on it. I told Ann, I said, I'm fixing break off or it's a fish. So I reeled down and set the hook, and then I just felt a little bit of a tap. I know. And then, but I pulled it up out of its hole because it was wedged down in those knees, and I had that little U-shaped hook. I was panicking. I was to the point of throwing up. When it rolled up, it looked like the top of it was so wide and dark green, mossy, that it looked like a catfish. So I said, that's a catfish, until it dove straight under the boat. It dove straight under the boat. stand up, but it swam away, and I backed up, and I had never fished with Ann before. So I said, Ann, I'm going to back up, and I'm going to pull it to the boat. I'm going to have one shot at this because it had that tiny, tiny hook in the side of his jaw.
Yep.
And she dipped it, and she's a little bitty profiled female. She flipped that fish over in the bottom of the boat, and I hit my knees. I was just done. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, we got it in the live.
Sherry, did you have a Mike Iaconelli moment then?
No, I did not. I did not.
Oh, you didn't stand back and go, whoa!
No. I was about to throw up, literally. I had to stop and drink some water and calm down. Once I got it in the live well, then I had my mental breakdown. Like, oh my, we put it on her scales and it showed 813 on her scales. So I was just like, this biggest fish I ever weighed. I was done. I couldn't fish anymore. I was sick for about 2 hours. So, but I had to play with it live well because it was so big. It filled up from corner to corner, and the tail was bent. So occasionally I would take it and put it in the other corner and bend its tail the other way just to give it a little bit of motion, because I caught it at like 10 o'clock that morning. So it had to stay in the live well until 3 o'clock weigh-in. So I kept G-Juice in it. I'm a firm believer in G-Juice. We kept fresh water, ice water bottles in there. So we take a lot of care of our fish. We believe in fish care products. We don't have a lot of dead fish. So it was live, healthy, swam away. Like I was telling you earlier, that's a share lunker lake. So if you fill out the paperwork, and if it's over 8 pounds, they pay so much, 9 pounds, they pay so much. But I got a free replica. The high school fishing coach was there. He took me out. He made a video. We released it. It swam away. It was healthy. And so they're making me a free mount, going to send it to me all the way from Louisiana to Alabama. So that was really, really neat.
Now this was Caddo Lake. So I got to ask, was that the biggest fish of the tournament?
It was.
Okay, good. Very good. Very good. Very good. It's Caddo Lake, man. I have a guy named Vince Richards on once in a while. Actually, he's one of my regulars. And he is a Caddo Lake fishing guide.
Really?
So, yeah. And he tells me he catches his 10 pounds. He catches 10 pounders plus every year wacky rigging.
Really? I was a wacky rigging a Gary Yamamoto Senko, and it weighed 9 pounds and 1 ounce. And there's a lady that lives there. Her name's Penny McCurdy. And she told me, she said, I live here. This is my home lake. I've never caught a 9-pound bass. And I was like, it happened. That's the only one I had. But
in there. Vince tells me he catches them there every year. It's not like, like Fork, where they catch hundreds of them every year, but they are pulled out of there every year.
I pulled that one out of those knees because it was literally like wedged. I had to get it up and get it out. But the lady who's making my mount from over there, she said that she had 90 plus bass from that area that's over 8, 9 pounds ahead of mine. So that's a heck of a place to be fishing. We don't have that here. We have spotted bass that get up huge. There's been 7-pound spotted bass caught in Lake Jordan. I mean, that's what we have here. We don't have huge largemouths. We just don't. So a 7-pound, a 9-pound bass was just unheard of. For us, that's like a 15-point buck.
Yeah. Do you have any? Well, you live close to Guntersville?
No, we're about 2.5 hours from Guntersville, but within 1 hour, I can be on 4 different lakes. I can be on Logan Martin, Lay Lake, Mitchell Lake, or Jordan, or the Alabama River. So actually 5.
So Logan Martin, you're going to have a tournament there this year, aren't you?
Yes, October. Sure is. I'm an hour away.
And what they were telling, they were really excited because the new facility, they said, is halfway down the lake, 25 miles this way, 27 miles that way.
Mid-lake. It's gorgeous too. That's a beautiful lake. It's full of sailboats. It has all the terrain. It has the humps. It has islands. It has shell beds. It has rocky points. It's current based. And
it has mean spotted bass.
It has mean spotted bass. I have caught 5-pound spots out of Logan Martin before.
5-pound spot.
5-pound spots. Yes.
I think my biggest spotted bass is like 2. But
no,
also
I had 18 pounds during a couples tournament, here on Mitchell Lake. I called all my husband's fish, and every one of them were spotted bass. 18 pounds of spotted bass.
That's incredible. Of course, I've never fished in any place that really has a lot of spots. Down here, all of my water is like Caddo, and it's even
Really?
worse. Oh yeah, I live in southern Louisiana, man. I mean, this is the swamp. But the only problem is Caddo Lake has bigger fish than where I live because we have wonderful things called hurricanes that come through every few years and kill all our fish.
That's correct. We're crippled by current. I love current. Dustin Connell lives in our hometown or was raised in our hometown. So we're all about that current. If you ever watch him on MLF, the first thing he's looking for is where's the current. That's the same way we are. We're going to get up there in that. We're not scared of it. We're going to get up there.
I like current. I grew up in current. I grew up catching smallmouth in small streams. What I like about current, it pins the fish to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But you've got to get down there to it, and chances are you're going to break off whatever you're throwing. So you got to keep everything mobile. If you're not a power fisherman to where you can hang with that current, then there's no need to get up. You got to be moving to stay in
I grew up catching smallmouth bass on 1/8-ounce jigs in current. That takes some.
That's correct.
That takes some. You can't do that without practice because you got to just hit the bottom, hit the bottom. Nope, that's not the bottom. And you have to be, when a bass hits it on the bottom,
it'll snatch it out of your hand.
Yeah, you better be holding on to that rod loosely. We have a comment here from Cajun Rob Fishing. Cajun Rob is one of my best friends, Rob Welsh.
Oh.
He's from Kentucky, fishes mostly in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
He says crushing them with Crusher lures. He is a big fan of Crusher lures. He's personal friends with Roger. And a good personal friend of mine. And here's Southern Bass up north. I do believe that's Kevin Timmons. He said, love them smallies. He's a guy from Georgia who moved up to Wisconsin, which is one of my favorite places to be in the world, is in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is
Wisconsin next year. They're thinking about throwing in a Wisconsin tournament. They're asking about how much participation would they have if they went up there. And I think that's something they're looking at also.
They're probably going to go either to La Crosse or Winneconne, which is on the Winnebago. La Crosse, I fished probably a dozen tournaments at La Crosse. It's
really
a lot of frogging.
That's so you follow the
but
same
also
way.
it's not structure frogging. You just go there's a huge area on by one of the dams that's duckweed everywhere, and people just throw your frog. And I sat there and watched a guy who could pitch a frog, who could cast a frog 100 yards.
Really?
And I mean, I saw him. He missed the bass. He missed it probably 6 times.
Did he ever get it?
Yeah, he got it. And I'm sitting there throwing a frog, and he's like, You don't fish much with frogs, do you? I'm like, no. Is it that apparent? He's kind of. I mean, you're not doing it bad, but you're not going to win tournaments doing that. Gee, thanks. Yeah, I'm just a stupid coer. And he's like, well, what's your strength? I said, wacky rigging. He said, dude, duckweed, 3 feet water, hundreds of acres of weeds with 3 feet of water on top of it. What should you be doing? I'm like, man, I had that damn frog pole on the green. and I actually, that was one of the few tournaments as a co-angler I brought in a limit.
With your wacky?
With my wacky. I used to be with Yum. That was one of my main sponsors back then. And man, the 4-inch Yum dinger, my goodness.
I don't have a plastic sponsor. I have a hard bait and rods and stuff like that, but I don't have a plastic sponsor. That's up next on my agenda. I have to find me a plastic.
We have quite a few people listening in on this. First of all, Josh Nelson, who's also a good friend of mine, a Vector Hooks Pro, he said that smallies are the best, and he has a special place in your heart. The guy lives up there by Lake Erie. Of course, he catches smallmouth bass. One of the best places to fish for smallmouth bass is
I want to catch a 3 or 4 pound smallmouth. That's my goal for next year. I hope
Also,
we go
Kevin
somewhere to-
Timms, Southern Bass Up North, says he's a fellow crusher pro like you. He says, Sherry, get with me if you come up north. I'll show you some stuff on the river, and you'll do better than the iCup. LOL.
The iCast.
iCast, maybe iCast.
Yeah, Nikki Joe and I got our teeth.
Oh yeah, the
kicked in at
iCast cup. Okay.
Yes. We got our teeth kicked in there. I own a small diner here in Clanton. Me and my husband do, and I had worked like 70 hours that week, and I'm short staffed. Everybody knows how employment is right now. I'm short staffed, so I rushed down to Orlando 10 hours. I fished for 4 hours, drove back, get to work. So Nikki Joe, she's a RN. She works like emergency room night shift. She had worked bukus of hours also. We went down there just like, oh, we got third last year. We got a bronze medal from MLF last year. We know what we're doing. Well, wrong. We got our teeth kicked in at iCast. It was unbelievable. So we'll be ready for that next year. She's went out and marked us some shell beds and stuff. So we'll be ready for next year.
Good for you guys. Josh Nelson also says, Sherry, head up my way. That's the guy who's in Northern Ohio. Says, I'll get you some good places to fish for him. Plenty of nice smallmouth up in Northern Ohio.
Yes, I want to catch small.
Place to fish. Yeah. All kinds. And you know, Kevin Timms knows Green Bay, and I've caught plenty of 5 pound smallmouth, some pushing 6.
Really?
Oh well, Green Bay, you know, is part of Lake Michigan, and that's just big water, big fish. They're on a different scale.
I caught a 13-inch smallmouth on a spoon that was bigger than that smallmouth, and I was just as tickled if that had been a 5 pounder. It wouldn't have mattered to me. I was with Secret York, and I caught my first smallmouth. I was so excited about that. I was so excited.
Mike Mueller, who's a Razor Rods pro, he's up on Cayuga Lake. And he posted a picture. He was fishing a spoon, and he caught a smallmouth that was that big.
No.
It was a 1/4 inch smaller than the spoon.
Yes,
but that's how aggressive smallmouth bass are. They are literally that aggressive. I've been bringing them in with lipless crankbaits and had, just like you said, six other smallmouths trying to take that lure out of its mouth.
I love fishing a spoon. That's my favorite all-time bait is a spoon, probably. And when I was doing another podcast, and they said, "Okay, we got to know what is your go-to bait. What's your favorite?" And it was when I told them a spoon, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I could never, ever, ever would have guessed that your favorite bait's a spoon," and it is.
That's crazy. You know, some of my favorite. One of my favorite piece of bad. I can't even talk. I'm excited here. One of my favorite pieces of bass footage I've ever seen was Jamie Hartman, Crusher Lures Pro. No, that wasn't Jamie Hartman doing that. He was the one who won using a topwater. Chris Zaldane throwing a spoon in Gunther'sville. We just lost her. Hopefully she comes back, guys. And hello, Fishing the Dot. Thank you for coming around, Fishing the Dot. Yeah, I can hear you.
My rod fell. So sorry about that.
There you are. You're back. But Chris Zaldane and he only had like 3 more minutes to fish, and he keeps catching a fish that's an inch bigger on every single cast. It was absolutely crazy. You would have thought I was watching, the Super Bowl, but that kind of stuff is the Super Bowl to me. That's just how I feel about it. I can't get enough of this bass fishing stuff. And here's the device is not connected. Is what it's saying, Jackie. Maybe reboot your system. No, there you are. You don't got to reboot nothing. And Cajun Rob, no problem, man. You're back. No blood, no foul. Cajun Rob said he's going to get out of there. Cajun Rob's going to Lewis Smith Lake in Coleman for the first time this fall. Do you have any recommendations on Lewis Smith Lake?
Crankbaits and Ned rigs.
Okay, you heard that, Rob.
Crankbaits and Ned rigs.
Crankbaits
If you're
and
going
Ned
in the
rigs.
jerk baits around stumps.
All right, you heard that.
Anything
Cajun
in,
Rob.
anything in Alabama in October, you always want to have a jerk bait. Any stump you come around.
Yeah.
The spotted bass pull up on the stumps and stuff about halfway, especially when the sun comes up during the fall, at the beginning of the fall. So anytime in October, you want to have that jerk bait tied on.
Well, Hank Cherry certainly did well in Alabama with a jerk bait in March.
Mm-hmm.
He won quite a bit of money.
Well, it was a Rapala DT6 that I won on in Dallas on San Rayburn. I have won. It was Dallas, yes. I have won back-to-back years. I won in 2021 in Dallas, and I won 2022 in Dallas, both on crankbaits.
What lake was that?
Ray Hubbard. Actually, in 2021,
Ray Hubbard, okay.
Ray Hubbard, chatterbait and a crankbait, but I won this year on a crankbait. We actually had to break it down to a one-day tournament because some severe stuff was coming in day two. And Larry Valentine, our LBAA director, he called it after day one, and I had 11 pounds with 2 fish. So I had a 6-pounder and a 4-pounder.
11 pounds with 2 fish. My goodness.
11 fish. And I won Ray Hubbard back-to-back years. So I really like it out there. It's a beautiful lake. It's like a big fish bowl. You fish the marinas or you fish the rocks. I mean, there's not a lot left to fish, but they really cleaned that lake up.
But back-to-back victories on the same lake, huh?
Sure did. 21 and 22. So I went in this year. I gave it my all. I was gunning for that championship, which I did. I won it, which will be getting all those awards in October at the Classic on Logan Martin with the Lady Bass Anglers. The Lady Bass Anglers are really growing. We've got a bunch of new faces, a bunch of young faces. We do the angling for kids and stuff. So we're trying to get it to grow. So if you're over 16, you can join the Lady Bass Anglers and fish with them. You can join at any time, but if you're over 16 years old, you can fish the Lady Bass Anglers. If you're a female, that is. But it's really nice. It's really neat.
And that's a co and pro type format, isn't it?
We do it very legit. We draw out of a hat. It's not computer picked as to who you're paired with. At the meetings we go up and draw out. You never know who you're going to be with, so it's not like you bring your partner. You're actually paired up with a lady from another state most of the time. So I have been with some awesome anglers.
That's awesome. It sounds like that you, geez. I mean, I can't imagine as a pro or as a co catching a fish like that, catching a 9-pound plus largemouth bass on a wacky hook. I mean, well, the biggest bass I ever caught was 7. I caught on a size 4.
It was a 2-aught little U-shaped hook, and I had it right in the side of the mouth, and I was literally about to throw it before I got in the boat because I knew it was on that tiny hook. We don't fish that kind of stuff, but every time I go to Texas or Louisiana, I always have wackies in my arsenal, so I'm ready to go with that wacky. And it's not my strength, so I was seriously stressing about that tiny hook in that big bass's mouth, but it got it in, no problem.
So you just hit on something.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go to Alabama, you wouldn't recommend me bringing my wacky worms?
It wouldn't be strength, but some people catch them on wacky. I don't catch them on wacky. I would rather have my shaker head if I come to Alabama.
So what kind of worm would you put on a shaky head?
A finesse, a Zoom finesse probably, but Big Bite has some 7-inch worms that are really, really strong here.
So you're talking a straight worm?
A straight worm, it sure is.
Straight worm.
We fish Lay, Mitchell, Jordan, all of them with Big Bite worms. Sure do.
Is that a worm that kind of comes to a point and 7 inches?
Yep, the 7-inch ones, they come to a point. They're really strong around here. You can actually buy them in bulk pack here. They're so hot. The big bite worms are,
Okay.
but we use Zoom, we use Robo Worm, we use anything like that. So we're not really. I have started using the Ultravive speed worms on my shaky heads, and I know that sounds crazy because that's a big worm. And on my Texas rigs, I actually got second in Louisiana with the Ultravive speed worm Texas rigging it behind Pam Martin Wells. That's the one that I was so excited about. I didn't care if I didn't win. I was just excited to catch fish behind her because she is like the best of the best.
Wow.
This lady, she's battling
So it's
cancer right. She's going through chemo, and she's still
good.
kicking everybody.
Tough, huh?
Yeah, she's tough. She's one of a kind.
That's awesome. So you're talking about a speed worm on a shaker head.
It works.
And that,
I know it's.
and that's a Crusher Lures. That's a Crusher Lures shaker head.
That's right. Those are probably my go-to. I love those hooks. They're long. The long shank is my. I don't like little 604 hooks. I want something that's got a little bit more backbone to it. It's a little longer. See, when I get that hook in the yeah, it has more backbone to it. You don't have to worry about it bending. It don't stay hung up because it's got that inset eye. I love them. That's just my thing. My husband, he always used a Gamakatsu hook, and he poured his own heads. I let him get in the basement. He pours all his little heads, but I pull out my little green packs and I kick his tail. So it doesn't bother me.
Guys, the Crusher Lures shaker head, you can be found at crusherlures.com. Comes in 1/8 ounce, 3/16 ounce, or 1/4 ounce in black or green pumpkin.
Everybody likes the black. I like green pumpkin.
Yeah,
I prefer.
I like black's kind of a traditional. Black's a traditional color for jigs for some reason.
That's right. But I like the green pumpkin. It just looks more natural to me. So if I go down there, if I go through and get my preference, I get the green pumpkin. If Roger sends me stuff, then I get the black because that's his favorite. He likes the black, but I like the green pumpkin myself.
So what color soft plastics are you using?
Me, I like a shady watermelon candy, a green pumpkin magic. Green pumpkin magic is actually one of my favorite colors right now. It's something new that I've started fishing with, and that's probably my favorite right now because it's the green pumpkin. It's got a black flake in it, a little bit of silver. It's just something a little bit different than what they're used to seeing. I used to use the green greens and the green blues and the green reds, but they've seen all that. You got to have something a little bit different. My husband we'll go in a bait and tackle shop, and I'll go find the most off the wall something, and he just shakes his head. But of course, I get it. And they want something different. You can't throw a purple worm by them 42 times and expect them to bite it on the 43rd. They don't want it. They want something different. That's what it is fishing co-angler. My strengths. People says, well, what makes it a little bit different? How are you catching fish when some of the others aren't? Well, you got to. If they bring a bait. If the boater brings a bait by a fish 20 times or whatever, and they don't bite it, you know what? There's no need in throwing that there because they don't want that. You got to tweak it just a little bit. Do something a little bit different or off the wall.
So cotton candy, so you like the color pink?
I like pink. I do. I like Morning Dawn. I actually use a Morning Dawn swim bait that I like on the Crusher swim bait heads. I love it here. Especially Morning Dawn. It's like the ribbed Kitech worms, and they're like half of a light purple and the pink on the backside. I like Morning Dawn.
I'm just looking that up real quick. Well, I didn't even see it in the and then that's in the Grass Crusher Slim Jig.
No, yes, that's not. No, I use the swim bait heads, but the Morning Dawn is actually a swim bait. It's a color of a rib swim bait heads. The Crusher swim bait heads on those. I think it's a Wesley Gore version.
Okay. I was going to try to look that up, but
it's a Wesley Gore version of the swim bait heads, but I use like a little ribbed Kitech swim bait on it. I love that during the springtime here.
Red seems to be the hot color nowadays for
Yes.
pre-spawn bass.
Mhm. Red is a hot color here anytime. It doesn't have to be pre-spawn here. Like I said, in some of the worms and stuff that we use, everything's got to have some tint of red in it. It just has to. That's the way it is here. But
Well,
we're
I'm
in the
glad
South, just like here in Louisiana, it's the same way.
you're telling me all this because I definitely would like to. Someday I'd like to move to either Alabama or East Tennessee. I mean, it's just more my kind of fishing. Actually, if you get up in northern Alabama, I've heard there are smallmouth bass up there, and
There is Gunnersville North. There is smallmouth. I've never had any luck up there on smallmouth. It's always been largemouth on Gunnersville, but Gunnersville North, Pickwick has smallmouth in it. We fished up there a couple years ago, and a lot of the ladies weighed in smallmouth. Of course, I didn't weigh in one, but some of the other ladies did. We were talking
yes,
about the reds. The Crusher has spinner baits even in the red colors here for here. It's red like a crawfish. See it?
there you go.
Even
Yes,
even our spinner baits here are red.
wow,
Red is a big hot color here. That's a Crusher spinner bait there. Some of the money bags.
that's nice. I like that.
You'll have to make Roger send you a sample pack of all the baits and stuff, so you'll have some to use.
He will.
The other owner, Ashley's fixing to get married down here, so they've got a big wedding plan. So he may not be doing fishing right now. He's about to get married.
Uh-oh.
Have you met Ashley?
No.
Yeah, Ashley, he's pretty nice too. Roger's kind of the talkative one but Ashley's the one behind the scenes.
Okay. Oh, we have another comment here. Kevin Tim says, Sherry, reach out to Bait Cave Customs for your plastic. Let them know you're on the Crusher Pro staff with me.
Bait Cave?
BAITCAVE. Bait
Okay.
Cave. Okay. One word. Bait Cave Customs.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you for that. I've got other sponsors, but see, this part of it is not the part that I'm comfortable with. I
Sure.
like to show, I like to fish. That's what I tell my husband. He says, what it was, I grew up catfishing. My family, did catfish farming for all my life. So when me and my husband got together, I said, will you take me fishing? He said, have you ever bass fished? I'm like, no, but I know how to catfish. I mean, how hard could it be? So
yeah,
after a couple of years, I started beating him. He said, well, they have the ABA has this couple series. You want to fish yet? And I said, well, yeah, let's do it. And so after I started beating him a little while, he said, well, LBAA, this lady organization, they have lady bass anglers. Would you like to fish some of those? I was like, I don't know. Some of those ladies are pretty tough. When I got on their webpage, I was watching, and some of the ladies were rebuilding their boats. They were installing their engines. I said, I'm out of my league. I can't do any of this. I want to show up and I want to fish, and then that's it. But then, the more I got comfortable with them, and the more tournaments I fish, I feel right at home. They're just so welcoming, and I love it. I just love it. I love traveling to different places and fishing different lakes that you've never been, and trying new things. And it's just so exciting. Just like Caddo, I try to explain to people how it is there, the boat lanes, A segments to B to C, and you have to stop and idle around a boat and go again. It's like driving down the street, and they're like, there's no way. So I did some videos when I was out there to show people back home how it actually was, and they were like, oh my God, that's a different way of life. So I love traveling and seeing different stuff. So it's really, really neat. You have to adjust. You have to be able to adjust really quickly. Change, adapt to your surroundings when you're fishing as a co-angler, because you don't know if they're going to those rock piles, if they're going to the eelgrass, if you're going to, you don't know until they set that boat down. So I fished with a lady one time. I asked her, I said, well, what are we going to be doing today? And she said, we're going to be really shallow. So we take off, we sit down, and we're in 60 foot of water. I'm thinking, what the hell? I don't know how to fish in 60 foot of water.
He's from California. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking
They
we're gonna
fish in
be in
100 feet of water in California. So, Sherry, do you have any shout outs you'd like to do? Any thank yous to any organizations, individuals,
yeah.
companies?
Yes, thankful to the Dinner Bell in Clanton, Alabama. Anytime you're in downtown Clanton, y'all stop by and eat breakfast with us. We own a small cafe downtown. It's right near the courthouse. Thankful to Crusher Lures for having me on. They provide me with the best baits when I go out of town. All in tackle is since they have the best. I use everything. Well, if I can get it in front of me, all this on my any plastics, anything I throw, anything Nikki Joe throws, we have everything's dipped in all in tackle. Like I said, Crusher, Rapala, they supply me with all of my crankbaits. I'm especially a big fan of the DT6, the DT10s, Duck It rods. Just I'm so thankful just to even be able to travel and do this. Mostly I'm thankful for my husband. He's my biggest sponsor. He's my biggest supporter. He pushes me to everything. When I'm down on myself and in my head and having a bad day, he's like, you're going to have to suck it up. You just go
Yeah.
out there and show. I know what you can do. So go show them what you can do. So I have a pretty good group of sponsors behind me. I'm really thankful for Crusher, though. They do. They send me out there with the best products. Anytime I need something, I just call them, and he's there. He says, come by, whatever you need, just come by. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm sure you thank them for this show also.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I can't do this show without people like you, Sherry.
Well,
because I don't think I'm really that interesting. So, I have interesting people on the show. But anyways, thank you. Thank you. Anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Again, my name is Jay Angel. I was your host with very special guest, Sherry Jacks. I know it's just Monday, guys, but this weekend, get out there and have fun. And the Let's Talk Fishing podcast brought to you by Crusher Lures, Grant Rods, American Bass Club. Have a good week, guys. And stick around, Sherry. I'm going to end the podcast with that.